Hackers don't need much. Just one leaked password can potentially unlock a treasure trove of personal information, leading to stress, pain, and permanently wrecked credit. Don't be an easy target. Get protection by Aura today. Aura protects your identity, finances, and family, all in one powerful app. Get real-time alerts, safeguard your accounts, and block scams before they happen. If identity theft strikes, we help you recover. Stay protected at aura.com/listen. That's AURA.com/listen.
Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Conley Pro wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us here as part of Empire Media, AMPIRE. Always much appreciated. When you tune in, you can read my work on ESPN.com. I'll have a story out Thursday about a guy he wrote about earlier this season, Cliff Kingsbury, and that, of course, is Sam Fortier from the Washington Post, as he's advertising it on his cap if you're watching on YouTube. Anyways, as you can see, I'm joined by Sam Fortier from the Washington Post. So, Sam, it's a Wednesday, and so this is typically I'm not doing a podcast today, but it's the postseason, so we've got to do more every day because there's a lot of interest. And so today is the first day we're back talking to the players. Sam and I didn't get back from Dallas until Tuesday, but first day back to the facility. We talked to Jayden Daniels, talked to Dan Quinn, get in the locker room. Any general vibe that you got from today?
The vibe that I got is that people should realize that John Keim is really playing through an illness here. He should have been on the injury report. And so people got to respect the fact that you're out here grinding. It's not too often, though, that in your 70 years covering the beat, you've gotten a playoff week. So I respect it.
No.
But, I think that they were in the bubble today after, obviously that big snowstorm. Marshawn Lattimore practiced, the jog through. But with his hamstring, Tyler Biadasz said he's good to go with his ankle. So I think that those are two really key players. If you're going to beat Tampa Bay, we can talk about some other guys. But really, I think the team seems loose. They seem relaxed. This is not a team that I think is going to get tense. Even though they're inexperienced at some places. And man, I'm just so fired up for this game. I think it's going to be really exciting.
It'll be a fun game. And I think to your point, and that's why somebody asked Dan Quinn about, your underdogs in this game. And I think they asked Jayden Daniels that too, which I don't think Jayden Daniels probably ever realizes if they're a favorite or an underdog. But Dan Quinn, I thought he's kind of interesting on that. And just said basically our guys are going to show up and fight. And that's about all he wanted to say. So, but what did you take from just talking to him and he's been through this. I mean, he can help with that, but it doesn't seem like the approach for him. All right, there's a funny story at that. You want to share it? What he talked about, what he told the team in the meeting?
Oh yeah, he said he showed up. I think it was to a coaches meeting or a players meeting, and he said, "Hey guys, we're gonna change up the schedule. We're gonna start practicing at night." Ha ha ha. Is this a family friendly podcast? Can I say what he said?
You can say it.
Okay. He said, when people started looking at him funny, he was like, "Nah, I'm just bullshitting." So I think that humor like that, and really during the press conference, I thought he was the same way. He was very relaxed. He was introspective. He seems to be enjoying the ride is maybe the right way to put it. This is a guy who's obviously played on the biggest stages, and it seems like they're really excited for this as opposed to getting tight.
For sure. But I think I think the approach is what it's been all year too, right? That's one thing I think when you talk to players, when you're around it, you feel that, right? And then I think when they were in the 3-game losing streak, the approach was the same. When they were winning all those games, I think the approach was the same. So in other words, why would you change now?
I walked into the locker room and a group of offensive linemen, including Andrew Wiley and Sam Cosmi and Biadasz, Allegretti. They were unwrapping packs of basketball cards.
Yes, I saw that.
And Sam Cosmi was because Andrew Wiley is a big card collector. Nick Allegretti collects coins. Cosmi was I don't really collect anything that I want you to know about, which made me laugh. But Sam Cosmi was telling Wiley, he's like, "Bro, I just unwrapped you a LeBron and a Wemby." That's what they're talking trash about. They're not,
And it's funny because I'm like, "What game are you guys playing?" He's like, "We're just trading cards." I'm like they're 10-year-old kids. It's just great. And by the way, I apologize. Shout out Miss Fortier. If you need me to drop in that S word on here with your mom listening, not cool. But I did think it showed.
I didn't learn it from her.
Okay, well, my kids would probably say the same thing. So, but you know, but to your point though, it was an example of like business as usual. This is
Right.
not, they're not, and the funny thing is like they're a new team. They're not necessarily a young team per se. Like they have enough of those vets to know like how do you handle this? Well, you go about your business. You know, Bobby Wagner's not coming in there and like people are asking Jayden, like, what is Bobby Wagner telling you guys? Like, well, there's really nothing. You just do it the same way.
And I think that like this is really where and you've been seeing it all year, but these games are where it's valuable to have a veteran in every room. The tight ends have
Yeah.
Zach Ertz, who's
Yeah.
played in the Super Bowl. They have, the offensive linemen have Nick Allegretti, played in the Super Bowl. Linebackers have Bobby Wagner. Like you can go through
Yeah.
pretty much every position group, and there's a guy who has played in huge games. Maybe not necessarily the Super Bowl, but huge
Right.
games. And I think that it really like it's gonna stand out in moments like
Yeah,
this.
for sure. And then with talking to Jayden, and did you get any vibe from him today? I'm trying to remember like some of the stuff that he went over is just, you know, it's normal for him, right? I mean, the like his compartmentalizing and doing well in the 2 minutes and all that stuff that we've been talking to him a lot about.
My favorite part of talking to Jayden, and I've noticed this throughout the year, if you ask him to reflect, he won't do it. Like he
Correct.
and I think that like I don't think he's not doing it as like a oh like these reporters are asking me annoying questions. I think he just like isn't thinking about it.
No,
And
he
so
doesn't.
like somebody asked him today like Dan Quinn said that your compartmentalization is your X factor. Like when did you realize you had that X factor? And he just like kind of laughed and was like I don't really think about that. I'll leave it to
Yeah,
DQ to decide what my X
yeah,
factor
yeah.
is. And it's like the and I wrote a big profile of Jayden before the season, talked to like 60 people, went to San Bernardino, went to Baton Rouge. Like
Didn't you watch every one of his
yeah,
plays?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You might have heard of that. But people say like this is just basically like
Yeah.
how he is, like
Yep.
the thing when he went to LSU and then when he stayed at LSU for that second season, that's when he really professionalized his approach. Started taking the training like even more seriously to the point where it's at here. And I think like that focus on the day to day and really impressively not getting bored with doing the same thing
Right.
over and over again. I think that's his superpower, honestly,
Oh, for
is
sure.
not getting bored because like, I'm not an NFL player, but like if I do the same thing over, if I eat the same meal more than a couple times in a row, I'm like,
It has to listen. There are a lot of things we all like, and some days, like I love riding my bike out there, but some days you're like, ah. But when you get going, you embrace it, right? I think, but he embraces the suck. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
yeah,
hard to get here every morning at the time. We're looking outside this window and there's snow out there, and it's 27 degrees. He'll be here at 5:30 tomorrow morning. So, like he's going to do it because it's what you do. It's not fun, but it's why this is what it all when people ask me what you think about it, what you see from him, it's not what we see. It's all the other stuff that we hear about that to me makes him who he is and why he could have a long career. But it's because he embraces that aspect of it. And it shines through in those interviews too. You're right, because he doesn't want to reflect on it. He's not going to say, if you ask him about rookie of the year stuff, it's like, yeah, I'm appreciative, but if you ask him about Doug Williams, he'll go on about him. Yeah,
right. And I think that there's some players where like in the past when we talk to people, they'll like performatively say, "Oh, I don't look at social media," or "Oh, I ignore the noise," blah blah blah, and they don't actually mean it because you see them
because
responding
they
to
are.
Instagram
Correct.
comments about fans who are like saying they played the wrong leverage when they are like, "Oh, I didn't," but Jayden but he doesn't performatively say, "Oh, I don't see that." He's like, "Yeah, like I see some of the stuff like
Yeah.
people talk about," but it's just like it's not that he doesn't care. It's just like okay, like that's what it is. You're gonna say what you're gonna say. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. And like that doesn't really affect each other. And I think that like that's a big part of it.
It is, and I think it also speaks to why he's doing this. He's not doing it for that. It's like that's fine. I don't think that he gets caught up in what he's doing or who he is. And it goes back to the spring when someone asked him about being a star quarterback. It's like I haven't done anything yet. You know what I mean? Like he understands who he is. I also have always said I think he understands his role here, which could be to be a superstar. But he understands that it's not like he's saying I am this. It's like, well, if that's what it takes, if that's what I need to be, that's what I'll be. And so I think that's a helpful thing for him that, that's his role. So I think that's why he doesn't get caught up in it. It's someone, Tyler Biadash's role is to be a good center. This is just his role. Does that make sense?
Totally. And I think that like the team actually put out a really good video that I thought like really kind of crystallizes a lot of what we're talking about. When Jayden threw the game-winning touchdown, I think it was against the Eagles. Maybe it was against the Falcons. But like when he threw the touchdown, like he didn't really react. Like he like, kind of got a
Right.
little fired up.
Right.
He didn't really react. when Marcus threw the game-winning touchdown against Dallas, he lost his mind. Like he was like going nuts on the sideline. And I think that like that is like a very succinct, small way to sum up the things that we're talking about.
And I've seen quarterbacks here who may not have celebrated their backup going in and doing anything like that. I may have seen a couple like that here.
You really?
I guess well, I've seen it all. So,
You're right.
Sammy Ball used to tell me like, Johnny. So, but it is. But I do think I think, to be honest, his superpower is exactly what we're talking about, because like it allows him to stay grounded and not get caught up in the, hey, I just did this, whatever it may be. And he talks about that with, if you throw an interception, there's nothing you can do about it. So go get him the next play. Say if you throw a touchdown, even the Bears, like I was amazed at the Hail Mary. It took him a minute to realize like, oh, I can go celebrate. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a superpower.
Yeah. And I think that like the low heartbeat, we talk about like every quarterback says stuff like that. Like that's why I was like not skeptical coming into the season. Well, yeah, skeptical. Like, because we've heard it so many times from so many guys. Like when you go to the Senior Bowl, when you like talk, when you see these kids do interviews at Elite 11, like the quarterback pipeline is full of dudes who say stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the gap between saying it and doing it is so difficult and so thin. And so to like actually see someone put that into action day after day, the consistency, that's one of the things I thought that Dan Quinn talked about. Like during the pre-draft process, you hear a bunch of nice, good things about guys. But he was like, he didn't realize that Jayden compartmentalized until he saw him do it every day. Because like that's the only way that you can prove to someone that you're doing it. You and me, when we do our jobs, anyone else, like, are you about it or are you just talking about it?
No, and I think that's a great point, because like there were a lot of things that they knew about him from watching the film, but it's why you have to spend time with him and talk to people. But there are certain things that you're not going to really be able to understand until you're around it. And just like, because again, I can tell you, I never trusted people who always told me what they did. If you have to, like in college, there'd be guys who'd say, hey, I'm a really good basketball player. I'm like, the hell you are. Because if you were, you wouldn't tell me. But who scared me? The guys who'd say like, yeah, I play a little. Those guys scared the hell out of me because you knew they could play. The guy who's telling me how good he is, nah. Right?
No, absolutely. And I think that like one of the reasons I'm so excited about this game is because Jayden had, I think, 33 dropbacks in the first game. Mm-hmm. He got blitzed 16 times. Yeah. And Todd Bowles was bringing it even when they were up, huge at the end of the game. And so like to me, all of the work that Jayden's done, all of the experience he's had, I don't think he's going to rely on his legs as much, although you could say like situationally, maybe he will, considering the pieces around him right now and how the run game is producing or not producing. But to me, it's just as much like this is such a good marker of how much he's grown and how much he can address. And Tyler Biadasz playing is, I think, going to be a huge deal in that regard. But it's you so seldom get a chance to face the same team at the end of a road like this, where you get such a clear measuring stick for growth.
You sign up for something, forget about it after the trial period ends, then you're charged month after month after month. The subscriptions are there, but you're not using them. In fact, I just learned that 85% of people have at least one paid subscription going unused each month. Thanks to Rocket Money, I can see all of my subscriptions in one place and cancel the ones I'm not using anymore. And now I'm saving more money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/gameon today. That's rocketmoney.com/gameon. rocketmoney.com/gameon. And the funny thing is, like, all year I've said he never looked like a rookie. And then I went back and watched the first game. I thought, oh, he looks compared to now. At the time, I didn't think it as much. And then you go back and watch and you're seeing his game differently because you've seen how it evolved. And like, oh, he did look like a rookie in some of these situations where not that he didn't look bad. He just looked like, okay, you've changed this. Keeping your eyes upfield, you've changed that, right? There are different things that, you get rid of the ball quicker here. And so I think like I'm curious to see like all those changes and how they are implemented into this game. And because yeah, that was the first time when I'm telling you, like yesterday when I went back and watched or today, it's like, okay, he did look like a rookie at times. But the fact that we didn't know at the time is pretty good on him. And the fact that I'm saying it now to me shows how much he's grown.
The number one thing that I'm looking at is his downfield targets in this
Yeah.
game because early on, Cliff, to his credit, did a great job of having him throw short, quick
Yeah.
passes to, kind of get him in a rhythm, to help him acclimate to the speed of the game. And Tampa Bay's secondary, when you look at it on film, there are places to exploit, but that just was not where they were in their progression at that point of taking those downfield shots and connecting on those downfield shots. And so I think really the first time you saw it was in that first or second quarter against Cincinnati where they hit the deep shot to Terry. So to me, it's what does this offense look like given their constraints, but with Jayden being where he's at and them being able to go more vertical?
I think that's a good point. There was one shot that he missed to Terry in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And there were several, and I'm going to talk about this in my Saturday thing, the 5 things I think, whatever. But
Wow, you're getting a free preview, people.
free plug. But one little nugget is like when he was running out of the pocket, his eyes immediately went down. And there were 3 plays, probably 3 plays at least, where of the 7 scrambles, you say, if you're now that your eyes are up, you either keep it alive so someone's not sure, or you're hitting those plays. And so like there are those chances I think will be available, but that's just another evolution of his game that they've talked about since then. And it was pronounced when you go back and watch it. And so like I think that's a thing too that really jumps out. So the chance for big plays is definitely going to be there. And if you can, I think the good thing for them is they've seen this style of defense a few times this year. So this is not a shock for him anymore, not a shock for them anymore. So I think, I'd be curious to see how they defend him differently if they do, or how they try to do things differently. But I'm more curious to see how they attack them and how much success. Because if you can get out, jump out early with this, now it's a back and forth. You can't fall behind in this one.
I was just about to say, and they're probably going to need to hit those deep shots because of, I think, the significant disadvantage they're facing in the trenches, in the run game, and also just with their defensive line not getting much pressure and being able to stop the run, especially like Bucky Irving, the Bucs running back, the way he runs between the tackles, one of the highest in the league at yardage and yards per carry, runs between the tackles. He just changes their offense. And I thought Dan Quinn actually made a really good point on Monday. Like, this Bucs offense is balanced. It's really balanced. And Baker has scrambled more in his career this year than he ever has. And he's like having more success doing it. I think we're really seeing the best version of Baker Mayfield that we've ever seen.
For sure. And I think that's where getting Lattimore back, not just getting him back, getting him, if he's healthy and can stay the whole game, makes them different. Because again, another big change from that game is, my goodness, the secondary is so much better than it was then. I mean, I'm watching Emmanuel Forbes is out there starting in that game. And there were and Sam still played like a rookie. And St. Juste actually of that group, like he gave up 2 touchdowns to Evans, but one was almost perfect coverage, and it's Mike Evans. But now you have a guy who can match up with him. But I think it's also the other guys that Sam still is just better. Igbenogany is playing better than what, certainly better than what Forbes was at that time. So that it's strengthened there as long as Lattimore is healthy.
One of my favorite parts of the press conference today was when someone asked DQ what he thought of Evans versus Lattimore, and DQ wanted no parts of that question. He was like, immediately, he was like, "Yep, there's going to be a lot of matchups on the field." And I was just like, he wants to say absolutely nothing.
But I am. Some people have asked me, "Will he talk to him about that?" Like, I don't know that you need to. We've seen the skirmishes.
Yeah.
Evans. I think he can get inside Evans's head. If I'm him, like, you could give him a little nudge if you want to, right? Just because but you have to keep your wits in this one. The last time they played this year, they both were professional about it. But still, like, you can't lose your head in this game.
There can't be one of those brawls that show up on the TikTok edits. That's for sure.
Yeah, you can't do that but again, if you can kind of get Evans under your breath, maybe he takes a swing at you, that's what you want. But you don't want to get caught up.
There's so I guess as a coach, do you think that would be worth it? Like gambling to try to get under someone's skin?
No, I think you got to play your game.
Because I was gonna say, I think that if you're playing with fire at that point, and I think that Brock Hoffman, the guard on the Cowboys, he was kind of like that a couple weeks ago. I just wonder, if it's a part of your play style, you need to do it. But we saw, with Nick Gates when he was here, I'm just trying to think of guys that are kind of in that vein. There's a very fine line between trying to get under someone's skin and then losing your own head.
And Nick Gates crossed that line a few times, and it's like you may think you're not, but the refs are. And so it just takes one crew. I think what you do is you compete, you play physical, you play your style, and if he does something, that's fine. You can't retaliate. And that's the key. And you can get under his skin, you can talk all you want if that's how you play, but you got to stay true to that. But you cannot cost the team, especially one where you're still relatively new since you haven't played a whole lot. And I would hope that they understand the stakes, that he understands the stakes and doesn't do that. But if you play hard and physical and get under his skin by doing that, that's great.
No, absolutely. And I mean, I think that's where that's where the coaches are really going to have to come into play here, because DQ has played, in those games. We talked about all the guys who have, but there are guys who haven't. Marshawn's played in a couple big games, yeah. but not as many as some of those other guys we talked about. And I think that it's going to be really important to keep your composure, yeah. Especially with the other unforced penalties this team has had.
Well, that's the problem. Is they cannot get involved in that game because they've been fortunate that they won a game where they had all those penalties against the Falcons and they had 5 turnovers against the Eagles. It's hard to keep doing that. So that's why they can't do it. But I will say, like, if I'm DQ, do you have to talk to Lattimore, or do you just let him go and just trust him? And I think you probably trust that he knows, and you bring it up in a meeting in a general way so guys get the message without having to single him out. Because one thing he's been really good at is letting guys be who they are.
Right.
And you don't want to take that away, but it's the 15-yarders that you cannot have. You just can't.
I would even say like the 5-10 yarders, on offense in particular.
Yeah,
I think that those are really hard for them because they have no run game right now, and you're not able to stay ahead of the sticks and get into kind of some of the things that you want to do. So, I asked DQ about that, like, what if your run game isn't successful? How can you stay ahead of the sticks? And immediately he was like, RPOs, quick game, like those are extensions of the run game, and they're going to be really important for this offense, I think, because they're going to struggle to run the ball. And Cliff Kingsbury said, I asked him a couple weeks ago, like, can you consistently win if you don't have a running back run game? And I was surprised that he was like, yes, as long as number 5 is healthy. And it's true, we've seen it, but it just makes the margin for error much thinner.
I think it's also hard because we haven't seen this, right? Like the Chiefs have gotten away for years, but Pacheco's really good, but like they throw the ball so much, as another coordinator who came from there reminded us. So, but you know what I mean? Like, so they could do it and you could win like that, but you have all these other parts. And I think so with Jayden, because he can run, he can be part of that, but it is the incorporating RPO is run pass option. So it could be a run, it could be a pass. I mean, the zone read, you get that out there, but the bubbles, the screens, those little curls, the flat curl routes, combos are a big thing for them, and they're often there. So like that's an extension of all that. So if you can have success with that, at least, because the big thing is on first down, stay ahead of the chains.
One of the most impressive things to me in the last couple weeks has been not just Jayden's effectiveness and efficiency, but his effectiveness and efficiency at the volume they're asking him to do it. Yeah. After the Atlanta game, he had 48 dropbacks, which was a career high, and he still was able to maintain his level of play. And I think that obviously, you're building up to that as a rookie, and I'm sure that the late bye helps. But 48 dropbacks mentally on a quarterback, like that's hard. I think that's the thing they talk about with Justin Herbert in LA. Like they just asked him to win on hard mode, true dropback, no motion, no play action, just like go empty and win. Like that's incredibly difficult. And so for Jayden to be doing that as much as he is, and as much as he may have to in this game, that's something that I'm really interested in watching, because he's checked every box so far, but can you do it on the bigger stage against the better opponent? You just want to see it.
Playoffs? We're talking about playoffs? You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is a key to winning in the playoffs, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score 6. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code KEIM. That's code KEIM for new customers. customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 160 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
When they started having these injuries, I even asked Quinn, like, I don't know if I kind of fumbled the way I asked it, but the point was the development of his game coincided with them needing more from him. And so it was almost like, they're having more injuries, they have more of this, the opponents are getting tougher, it's getting down to the end, but his game was matching where they were at. And so then you could ask him to do a little bit more, and he could do more. And he has. So I just feel like his evolution has helped them evolve the offense. You don't always see that.
No, and I think that's the thing, Jayden is excellent. Yeah. And I think that his individual talent is undeniable. But when you look around the league and you see the situations that Caleb Williams is in, that Drake May is in, you have to appreciate that Jayden's success is not purely him just forcing this to happen. Right. Cliff Kingsbury and the way that offensive staff has designed this offense, the way that, the front office kind of set him up, finding guys like Zacchaeus and Crowder and finding those guys on the margin. So even if Noah Brown gets hurt, you still have those guys that you can rely on. Jayden deserves a ton of credit. I'm not downplaying that at all. But the situation that they have created here is truly superlative.
And I think you can go to Mariota for that too, and Tavita Pritchard and Dave Blah. I mean, it's across the board. And when he was drafted, I'm sure you talked to the same people where it's he really liked the situation here. And I heard that early in the spring, how much he liked Mariota, for example. But I do think the offense, they're getting production from Zacchaeus. And not that he's a bad receiver, but he didn't do it. He didn't come in here. When he came here, nobody's thinking he's going to get 45, 50 passes.
I didn't know if he was going to make the team out of camp.
Right, exactly. You didn't know. And Crowder, he's a guy that teams have, passed on for a couple of years, and he's been productive when they've asked him to be. When they've needed him to be, they find ways to make it work. But he then finds ways to get them the ball. And that's one thing I think that's good for him is he trusts a lot of different people. And I know everybody wants to get the ball to Terry, but if it's not there, he's not forcing it to him. He's throwing it when he needs to throw it to him. And sometimes, I know that can be in other games frustrating if they lose, because then it's but he's had games, they beat the Falcons, he had one catch. They beat the Giants in New York, he had 2 catches. And in years past, it would have been apoplectic here, right? This year, it's hey, you're celebrating a W because you had other options because he doesn't force it. So I think that speaks to what they've done, what they've created. But I think it says a lot about him too.
Little preview for people. On Thursday, we get to talk to the coordinators. And the question I want to ask Cliff tomorrow is what percentage of the time is Jayden making the right football decision? Yeah. Because they grade that. They know that stuff. But it feels like a remarkable amount of the time. If you look at the play and you say schematically, what is the defense giving you? Or, considering your left guard gets beat, or you're getting an unblocked pressure off the edge. How often is he making the right football decision? It seems to me to be really high.
Oh, it absolutely does. And there are a couple of times where it's you might look and say, there may be some reason where it's that's probably predetermined. And those were more early in the year. And there was one that was recent, it jumps out because you don't typically see that, right? And you see him getting through his reads. I think that was one of the things, even in the first Tampa game, where I didn't feel like he got through some of his reads as quickly as he has done subsequently. And so, but yeah, I think you're right. I think most decisions you can say yeah, that's a good decision. The ball might be a little bit off, or maybe it was incomplete, whatever, but it's the right decision. They've always said that's the first thing you want as a quarterback, make the right decision.
I'm jumping ahead a little bit here because I'm going to talk about fall 20. No. Further than that. That is the thing, the processing, the decision-making that everyone talked about with CJ Stroud, a guy that Jayden liked to compare himself to, had his stats written down in his phone before the year. But I think that what we've seen, I haven't gotten to study him as in depth, but we haven't seen that as much from CJ Stroud this year. And he kept his offensive coordinator. And so I think that is it a tougher schedule? What is going on there that's preventing CJ from translating skills that you think would translate? And a thing that we're going to be talking about in the offseason is how does Jayden avoid a dip like that?
Correct. And I think that'll be the thing. And I think because they both work at it, right?
Right.
And I don't I don't know. I know because he went to Ohio State. I know a lot about CJ Stroud.
Ohio State.
But you don't say. But I don't know how he works compared to Jayden. I know how
Right.
Jayden works. And I also know that it's hard. There's not a linear, it's not like you're great this year, then you're greater here, then
Of
you're
course.
greater here. It's going to be, there are going to be some dips, and there will be dips for him because there always are. But I would all say, like, his approach will equal long-term success. So it's just a matter of how does each year look? I mean, and then what do they do around him? And how, like, do they surround him with more guys that make you, if you put another dangerous deep ball threat opposite Terry, how much more dangerous does that make Jayden Daniels? I mean,
Pretty dangerous.
and I think the other thing that part of the difference, he's just a more dynamic runner, and the more, like, CJ can run, but he's not the dual threat that this kid is. And I think that will always make a difference, because when in doubt, all right, I can just go, I can get 20 yards right here. And then you're avoiding mistake, and you're live to see another down.
I'm going to shameless plug here, like you just did with Ohio State, the Ohio State. But I wrote a profile of Marcus Mariota and his influence and kind of how he overcame, or how he kind of dealt with his anxiety from Atlanta when he was benched in Atlanta to here. And probably the most fascinating thing he told me was that, like, when he came in and he was mentoring Jayden about running specifically, everybody said, you got to slide more, you got to protect yourself more, which is the same thing they told Mariota when he got to Tennessee. But Mariota said his number one lesson to Jayden, his number one statement to Jayden was not slide more. It was trust yourself.
Yeah.
Because, like, he was like, I felt like I slid a bunch early on in Tennessee because that's what they told me to do. And I took shots to the face that I didn't need to take. And I think you see Trevor Lawrence slide, a little bit earlier this season and take a brutal hit. And you're like, oh, like, sliding is unnatural for these guys, because Jayden, growing up playing flag football, he just, like, shifting his hips, like, he just understands, like, how to create glancing contact. And obviously you always want him to protect himself. But to me, like, it's not just a coach telling you. To have Mariota in the room saying, hey, I was you at one point. I did what they're telling you to do, and you should do some of it. You got to get out of bounds. You can't try to run people over, but trust yourself. I think that does more for Jayden than we will ever know.
For sure. And I think that's good. And that's the other thing, going back and watching that first game, the awkward tumbles, but he didn't get hit on those.
Right.
It might look awkward, but he didn't get hit. But you're right. Like, you're risking, when you're sliding, some guy is coming at your head and you don't know if he started or not. So you could slide and still get drilled. We've seen that, so we've seen it in college, we see it in the NFL. So anyways, anything else you got? You got anything else you want to plug in the Washington Post?
No, I mean, just on TikTok, on Instagram, as you like to tell the people, which I appreciate.
Sammy TikTok.
But I mean, I'll leave it there.
Okay. Sam, thanks a lot. Always good having you on, and appreciate it. And I will be back on Friday morning talking about the Bucs with ESPN's Jenna Lane, getting you ready for Sunday's game. Talk to you next time.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.